All right, all right, all right. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I know it's been about a week since the last update, but I have made quite a bit of progress and I love to share. As normal, as usual, please don't forget to check out our webpage. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Threads, Instagram, and we're also on Blue Sky. So if you tend to tread those more than the other social media platforms, that's fine. The only one I'm not on is on TikTok because, again, the feature on that is uncertain, and I just don't touch X or Twitter because it's a dumpster fire and I just don't want to deal with it. So that's pretty much where we're at. So, last time that we were on, we were starting to get some really nice, pretty much just playing with flow. We moved away from Gemini because we just couldn't get what we wanted, and then we started playing with flow. With version 2, I was able to get some of the animation, but it didn't add any other audio. With version 3, it added some of the audio, and then we came up with a couple good clips. However, after a while, it seemed to have maxed out to a certain point. So it pretty much came down to editing the same script multiple times, trying to grab the best performance, and then move on from there. The big problem that I keep having with the AI is continuity issues, at least from the character sheet prospect or aspect. And then it'll add things like sound effects or change eyes or add tails, so little weird things like that. So today we already did scene 1, so let me just kind of give you guys a refresher. Scene 1.
How did this one even get hired in the first place? Are we really down to the bottom of the barrel?
See, like when that one is split her eyelash into 2 when it was supposed to be just 1, and she keeps blinking on her eye patch, even though I've told them multiple times the AI don't do that. Now, here is scene 2. So if you remember the original audio, so let me go right here to the test. I'm going to play this for you.
How did this one even get hired in the first place? Are we really down to the bottom of the barrel? Failing physical, mental, and combat skills? I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
Okay, so that's pretty much the original skit. And so with this, I went ahead and I went back to let me go back. I finally organized this. So yes, I went back in here and I went into the second half of these Photoshop files. Please give me one moment. And I have this divided into 2 scenes. So I went ahead and I had to tell Adobe, let me go to Adobe Firefly real quick. I forgot about that stuff. I'm bouncing all over the place, folks. So I told Adobe to please go ahead and build me an environment. And I pretty much, I provided the image. You can see right here. I went back in, drew the image. You can see this is the original photo that I started with, and then I redrew it because I wanted to change the POV. Instead of just being 3/4 of the side, it would be from the seat looking out. So I had to draw that reference, upload it here, and then I provided the previous background that I generated using Adobe Firefly, the modified version, as a point of reference for the styling. Once I did that, I was able to download it and a modified version of this, and I ended up borrowing this image right here as a test to rebuild the next background, and that's what you're seeing right here in Photoshop. So if I'm going here, you will see there's the original background we started with. That's the same one you see in Adobe Firefly. And then from here, I added, because remember, she's sitting on a desk. So I sampled the color of the desk and I added a bold line to it so that way it still looks into the environment. I pushed back the colors because I want the characters to stand out, not compete with the environment. And then I added the screen and then I drew the hand. Now, what was really funky about the screen is that the first time I did it, I officially borrowed a illustration that I did in the past. This was from the audio clips, and I just simply put Scully on it, and I specifically directed the AI not to animate its mouth. Unfortunately, the AI doesn't understand that, so all it sees is a face. So if I go here to flow, here, let me go ahead and play this for you. You can see immediately what I mean.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
It just doesn't understand not to animate the mouth.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
It also likes to add a lot of sound effects I didn't ask
Failing.
it to do, so there's that. So the first time around, let me go back over here. This is scene 2. So I did a close-up on the screen showing character rank with a check mark and physical. So I need to write that a little bit better. So a check mark next to physical, mental, and combat, and a large terminate button, which I already provided that for the AI to begin with. The screen doesn't move. You see her hand moving down each one of these key points. So that was the first one. On the second one, I literally told her hand movements and body language convey extreme frustration. That's what I wrote the second time. I did somewhere on here. Let me see. I think I told her not to talk. Let me see. Close up. Blah 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 blah. Use your hand. Nope, I did not do it the second time. So I tried it again.
Failing physical.
So pretty much almost the same screen, but it just kind of chopped out part of the arm. So this was no good for me.
Mental and combat skills. Failing physical, mental, and combat skills.
So that doesn't work either. So in the third prompt, and right here, every time I went through and I modified it, I wrote down what was the cause, and then what was the effect. So in that time around, the mouth kept moving and the floating arm happened. So at that point, I decided to go ahead and go to Scully back in Photoshop, and I simply filled it in with just a black shape. So that way the AI doesn't see it as a face to animate. So it will leave the screen alone, which was my original directive, which this means if I do have to do something like this in the future, I might have to kind of break this scene apart. So that way the animation, the background, I just kind of mask around the hand, and then I have just the scene by itself, and I have to composite it a little bit later. So again, I'm trying to come up with solutions for some of these problems as I'm encountering them, as I'm kind of engaging with the AI. God, would you stop doing this? Jesus, I hate it when it does that. Okay, so I pretty much went ahead, I blanked out the audio, and then it gave me the face, and it gave me this.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
So a little better performance, but the problem is it added a 5th finger. The characters don't have 5 fingers, they have 4 fingers. You can see right here, there's the thumb and the 3 fingers, and it added a 5th one because it felt like it. I don't know why I decided to do that. So here in the next one, I went ahead and I said, a short video, 5 seconds. So unfortunately, Flow doesn't understand when you give it seconds, at least in this level of subscription. So I need to see if the higher level will provide me that, but unfortunately that's out of my means at the moment because it's like $125 a month for the higher tier, and right now I'm just kind of working in a shoestring budget. But right now you could tell it to make it 5 seconds short, it's not going to listen to it. Just the default is 8 seconds, and that's it. And it doesn't really give you too many options. It just makes you 8 seconds shorts, and then you just have to work with that. Okay, so there's that. Let me see, this was 4. So again, I just completely ignore that. I tried it again.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
So I ran the same script, but for some reason this time around it decided that General Goey was a dude, which was kind of a shame because the performance was great, but General Goey is a female, not a male. But I still thumbed this in the background because I already had a solution. I can show you that solution here in a little bit. Okay, so that one was one of my better ones. So I went back in on the 5th one, and at this point I don't even know why I kept this on here because the thing does not does not give a shit if you tell it if it's, does not give a poopy if it's 5 seconds or not. So right here I started adding, because again it keeps adding fingers. Hand only has 4 fingers. General Goey, and I had to put in parentheses female voiceover, failing physical, mental, and combat skills, because otherwise it was going to keep adding a dude's voice. I don't know why I decided to suddenly do that, but it did.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
So as you can see, it added a black forearm. The hand just flipped. Like it everything about this is wrong. Like it added fingers, the hands pointing in weird ways, so that is no good. So I pretty much kept trying and kept trying on this.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
And it just kept doing weirder and weirder hand gestures. And then it kept also adding weird sound effects that I did not request. So that is one of the few problems you will have with this, where in the future I need to test to see if I can mute it to say no sound effects, because it kept adding an ambience of a ship, and then on top of that it kept adding extra like thumbs and like just little weird things that don't need to be there. So it's hard for me to control that.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
Okay, so you can see right there, just in that screenshot right there, why I decided not to go with that. So here's the solution that I came up for scene 2. So let me go to Microsoft Clip Map. And what I did for this one, and this is, I have a Microsoft subscription, so this is something that came with what I had. And what I did is I grabbed the voiceover that has a female voiceover, and then I grabbed the performance of the male voiceover. I muted the male one, and then I just ran the female one, and this was the end result for scene 2.
Failing physical, mental, and combat skills?
So I was able to kind of overcome that challenge, because every time I run the script, it takes away from my tokens. And the fact is, the male voiceover was the best performance. It's just the only thing that was wrong is that the voice was of the wrong gender. So because she is off camera, it doesn't matter if the lip sync matches or not. So this was a good opportunity to simply find what I call a workaround, or what most people call a workaround. And it turned out this way. And I was able to modify the length of the short, which is less than 5 seconds, literally just shy. That's all that I really needed. Her reacting to what she's reading, a POV from her point of view, and then the next scene is going to be cutting to her back, pointing to Combat Rock. So I'll show you that here in a little bit. Okay, so now that we got that scene and I was able to figure out the second cut of this, I went back, and if you go back to the original, let me go back over here. When I started doing this testing, I started doing keyframes, because I thought I could do keyframe to keyframe and then the computer would do the animation, but that was only for VO2. VO3 only worked with one single frame and a very detailed prompt in order to do the performance. So this was the first one that I used. I think this is the one that I ended up using here. So this was for scene 1. This is what I used for scene 3, which is her finally reading and understanding. It's like, seriously, this person failed. Why is this person failing? So you can see right here, here's her performance. Let me go back to scene 3. And I've been bouncing. This is why it's taken me a week, guys, because it's just me trial and error, while at the same time I know I have a finite resources of tokens. So I'm making sure that I'm refining this as best as I can. As you can see, as I go through and I refine the prompt, I've made myself notes of what and what not to say. So I went ahead and I borrowed the prompt from the first one, and then I modified for the third one. So the animation is still pretty much the same. So right here is describing that she's behind the desk looking at a screen, overlapping her body as she views the files on the screen. She looks frustrated on her face. Only her left eye is moving as she reads. Now, the first time, as you can see, right eye doesn't move, it's an eye patch. So keep this in mind right here. When I told it to do this, this is what it did.
I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it!
So it makes me sad, because the performance is not bad, but it completely changed the design of the character by actually adding an eye patch, which was not needed, and then he changed the design of the eye. So this thing cannot, so far what I'm understanding is this thing cannot do anything other than human eyes at the moment. So unless you make it really predominant, that is like her eyes are kind of greenish. If you have cats, you know that they have these very predominant eye color. It just tries to humanize it into a white fill with the little color iris. So this was kind of disappointing, because again, the performance was great, but it was not on sheet. So I went ahead on the next one. I told it Same thing. She looks frustrated. She looks frustrated in her face and slammed her hands on the desk. Only her eyes, blah, 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 blah. This time, however, I added her head movement and body language conveys anger, extreme frustration, disapproval. Do not add tail to character. She points at a rock off camera, okay? Because I want to make sure that, I didn't put combat rock in the first scene because I was trying to figure out I'm trying to tackle just one character at a time. If I put too much in the scene, it cannot tackle it, which is something that I can add a little bit later on, maybe add it on the desk because the background is not physically moving. Only she is if you watch each one of these shots. So let me show you right here what it did in the next round.
I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
Okay, so again, it lost the green in her eyes, which is very frustrating because the design is fairly simple, but it keeps wanting to revert to this white eye with black dot. It just cannot do 2D animation. And when I told it to slam, it picked up this notebook with a sticky note on it. I meant to get it to punch, so it was interesting.
Even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's exactly what it did. Okay. So because of that, because it doesn't understand, remember AI, it's based off certain, it doesn't understand what you're saying. It's just trying to understand what you're saying, but it really has no comprehension at all. So when I tell people you have to give very concise and precise instructions, sometimes that's feasible, but sometimes it's not, because I have no way to select an object, label it something, and then describe to the computer that this has a surface, that it has mass, it has volume. It's just only based on this one image, and it's doing its best to interpret what is processing based on this image, based on this giant, like, learning, his learning data. There's an actual professional name for it, but it's escaping me right now because it's Sunday morning and I still haven't, my brain is still not all there. Okay, so here is, let me see, 1, 2, 3. So in prompt 3, I took away slams her hands on her desk, and I made sure anger stayed in there. So, and this time around, it wasn't too bad, but then it did this.
I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
Like, it's adding purrs, and then it added fangs. At no point did I tell it to do that. And that's the only thing that I find frustrating, that I'm giving it as much clear of a design as I can, but it doesn't, how do you say, I can't control the output of it. And the fangs kind of really upset me, but it is what it is. But so far, it's doing okay. So I went to the fourth one. I even went this time around, do not add fangs to her mouth. So here's what it did.
I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
And it's still added at the end,
even the
which
test rock
really
passes the combat
it's
skill.
very frustrating. I was like, so I could go in and physically try to remove it, but if you ever had to do any rotoscoping or anything in film, it's not just a single frame that it carries over if she stops moving. This character is constantly moving. So then I will have to motion track that little box on her face, and that makes it kind of annoying. Okay, so right here towards the end, I pretty much went ahead and I pretty much did the same thing a few times, because I wanted to make sure that I said that this time I put do not add fangs in bold. Okay, so here's what it's starting to do. So right now I got the performance down to what I want. I'm just trying to see if it gives me a variation good enough for me to be able to use it for the final rendition. So I'm gonna go right here.
I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill.
Look at the eye.
Look at it. I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
So what I do like is that her eye patch is finally not
even the
moving.
test rock passes the combat skill.
But now her eye is changing color. So if I could have gotten this to be just the eye patch not moving and her eye not changing design, this would have been great, but it's just missing something. So I try to run the same prompt this again, and this is what it gave me.
I mean, even the test
See?
rock passes the combat skill. Look at it. I mean,
Again, it almost kind of reads the green outside and it wants to turn it into a pupil like Pixar and Disney style. So it doesn't understand that an eye can literally be just green. Like it cannot process that. So with that, again, this ate up quite a bit of my coins. So I still got 700 credits. Remember, every time I run this, you're talking about 50 to 100 credits a pop. So right now, I just went through several hundreds just to try to put this a little short together, which to me is worth it because I got to tell you, when you first get into...
even the test rock passes the combat.
So when you first get into these subscriptions, they're not really quite sure how much tokens you need. So the fact that I've been giving all these platforms a lot of heavy uses, because I've been using Flow, I've been using Sono, I've been using Gemini, and I've been using Adobe Firefly, like there's no tomorrow. Like I'm pushing it to the limit, and even with me engaging with it on a daily basis, I'm not even making a dent on the amount of tokens that I'm getting. So I will get to Sono here in a second, but Adobe Firefly, if I go to my account, you see right here that it's got, out of 4,000, I've only used half, and that's with me constantly using it. So just kind of food for thought on that. Okay, so let me go now to the composite. So we got all of our scenes together, we got our background done. Now let's go ahead and put it together. So I went back, continue without sync. Okay, so here is what I did at the end. So let me show you guys the final performance. I'm gonna go right here.
How did this one even get hired in the first place? Are we really down to the bottom of the barrel? Failing physical, mental, and combat skills? I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it.
So technically, when you think about it, this, if I were to compile all my time together, this took me about 4 days to put together. Now, while this one had the best performance at the beginning, it wasn't until I actually put it into the software that I was able to see that the character sheet was already messed up right off the bat, because it did the giant iris, which I keep telling it not to do that, but it does it anyway. And so it gave me that instead. Now I did have to kind of shorten and lengthen some of these, because again, Flow only gives you 8 seconds no matter what you tell it. You just kind of have to deal with it and just kind of cut and paste however you need to get the shorts down. But anyway, so here is the best one from scene 1. This is the compile of the male and female, which I put together using this software right here. And then this is me picking the best one from 3. And then for 4, what I had to do is, let me go back to Photoshop. And I reused part of scene 1. And then I simply went ahead and I just kind of did a zoom in, just showing combat rock and a pedestal. And I just kind of drew the character in. And that's pretty much what I did right here at this point. Okay, so that's pretty much what we got going on right there. Now, the last thing that I was not able to do in Flow was the music. So for that, I went to Sono. So you guys know that I launched Chaos Music, which again is forcing me to really learn how to talk to these AI prompts, what kind of music, what kind of style, what kind of beats that I want. And this took me about 8 rounds. And when I tell you guys that I have a really basic membership, only pay $10 a month, they give you like 2,500 icons or 2,500 tokens. I have been using this on a daily basis 4 or 5 times just trying to get the perfect song, and I'm still at 1,900. Okay, so if you're a casual user, if you're not a corporation, the basic account should be ample for you, unless this is all you're doing all day long for all your production. So I will tell you this right now, the entry level stuff is more than ample if you get really creative and know how to use some of your other resources in order to get things done. So with that, I typed in into Sono. This is strictly instrumental. It's military, office music, office quarter, space, low hum. So as I kept going through, like I had to do this multiple times just kind of get this going. And I ended up with some pretty interesting variations. So this is one. So this is kind of interesting because it reminds me, even though I put before it was office music, officer's quarter, space, low hum, it gave me this like Mexican military mariachi, which makes absolutely no sense because it's nowhere near what I told it what I wanted, but here we are. And then I also asked it, I continued to add more and more and more. So I added slow pace, downbeat mellow. So it gave me this other version. And again, I don't know how it sees mariachi as military music. I don't understand. Especially, I put nothing of Mexican music in here at all, and it just keep. I think it's because I put trumpet, and maybe they haven't trained the AI enough with trumpets. So all it thinks up is like mariachi music. I don't know why it does it. So this was after about 8 rounds of doing this, and this is the one that I made for this short. So I really like that. However, it has a kind of like a slight Russian, like if you've ever heard Russian music, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. So, but that's pretty much what I wanted it came up with, and I just kind of stuck with that because it was just a situation where you have I want Goey to be represented with like kind of this trumpet kind of thing because she is, if you think of any military music, they normally always have trumpets. Any major ceremonies or all that stuff, it has it on it, and she is the captain of the ship. So I want her stuff to always have some sort of trumpets in it. So this was as good as it's going to get, but in this situation, she's sitting in an office. She's not at her best. It's kind of a goofy moment because she's going through these files and she's looking at this. It's going, seriously, is the best that we got? And it's supposed to be kind of like a mix between militarized and then kind of make like goofy music. Boom, bump, bump, bop, bop. So it's kind of like a circus. I like that. Bop, 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 bop. Kind of adding that in there. So that kind of gives you the final like vibe or energy or whatever you want to call it, because people use slang all the time. So it kind of gives you this right here.
How did this one even get hired in the first place? Are we really down to the bottom of...
Where's the music? Hold on, give me a second. Sometimes it doesn't hold on to... Okay, let me see.
How did this one even get hired in the first place? Are we really down to the bottom of the barrel? Failing physical, mental, and combat skills? I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it!
Okay, so that's actually not pretty bad for around technically 4 days of work. Now, I will have to say, though, notice that that's only 20 seconds. Now, the reason why it's taking so long is because, one, I'm trying to figure out the flow and all that fun stuff. And as you can see, I'm bouncing between 4 AI platforms and then Photoshop and Microsoft. So this is not all AI. It is not. I am contributing to this. So if anybody wants to say that, yeah, AI is doing everything for you, no. As you can see, I'm the one composing it, timing. I'm still doing all the other stuff. And I'm still kind of fighting the AI to kind of give me what I want for these scenes. And I'm still drawing most of that concept to give to the AI. So no, it's not completely hands-free because I want to try to maintain that continuity. Now, right here for the final scene, since this was a single illustration coming from Photoshop, I needed to simply have a, have some audio to keep the hum going, because if you could hear through most of this audio, there's a hum.
Are we really down to the bottom of the barrel? Failing physical, mental, and combat skills? I mean, even the test rock passes the combat skill. Look at it!
So you hear that hum at the end. So that came from one of the scenes where she was performing, but for whatever reason, the audio did not go through. And even then, I'm going to bring this back down to 100% because that is a lot of hum at the end. So
skill. Look at it!
There we go. So that sounds a little bit better. But for most part, guys, this has been a pretty interesting process. I'm pretty happy with the result. I'm probably going to re-export this out one more time because I didn't realize how loud that was until I'm doing the stream right now. But this would have probably taken me a month to animate if I would have just gone between doing the background, the keyframing, the coloring, because it's frame by frame coloring, even with puppeteering. Now you have to have things such as Toon Boom Harmony, which you're looking at it's not cheap. Toon Boom Harmony, you're looking at about $100 a month, which again is out of my budget at the moment. Which I remember using Harmony back when it was just Toon Boom, like when it first came out. So that's my early animation career. We had to do a lot of puppet rigging on it, and it was kind of wonky back then, but it's come a long way since then. So Harmony is something that I hope that in the future, once I get more budget, that I can start, hiring other people to help me. But for right now, this is going to be most of my flow because I really want to get some test scenes as a pilot to put together so we can get some funding to actually do the actual show. And I did ask around to see how much a pilot will cost for just a 20-minute pilot. The cheapest quote that I got was $25,000, which no, I don't have $25,000 for a 30-minute short. So it's probably going to be really rough, but that is okay because you said it's just a pilot. It's just to get the foot on the door and just to kind of get it going. So that's pretty much the plan of action. As for my Patreon, I'm currently putting that together. So if you guys are itching to try to contribute, if you go to most of my channels, it's like a little PayPal thing. That is what I have set up so far because, again, I'm doing all these channels and I'm trying to get everything done on top of the fact that I'm still looking for full-time employment. So, I have so many hours of the day and I got to sleep. I don't sleep much, but I got to sleep. Okay, so yeah. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoy this progress. The last thing that I still need to tackle, and I started looking this week, is 11 Labs. I started kind of learning about it, but I don't want to bias. First of all, I'm really wary about volunteering my voice to 11 Labs because I was originally the voice of Goey. But as we've seen with some of these web pages like 23andMe, when people volunteer their personal, literally in that case, their genetics, with 11 Labs, I'll be literally volunteering my biometrics, which would be my voice. Now, it doesn't mean that someone can grab all my videos and then go ahead and make a fake voice about me, blah, 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 blah. But I'm personally myself, I don't feel comfortable doing that because all kinds of things can go wrong. So what I would like to do is try to grab the audio clip of this and then modify her voice so that way it's a closer tone to what it sounds like to me and Lord Byron, which right now this voice sounds a little too young, too spry. You're talking about a woman that is in her late 20s, early 30s who's seen things. Her voice is not going to be very cheery, happy, or perky. And if you've ever been around people that have been around those environments, which I have, a lot of women in that environment, not to sound rude, they kind of sound, there's a lot of weight to their voice. Like it's not very girly, it's not very mousy, it's like there is weight to it, and that's what we want to add to this character. So yeah, so that's probably going to be my next part of the project, is trying to figure out if I can modify that voice to get it to an octave that makes more sense for this character. But anyway, guys, so that's the update that I have for today. I hope you guys like this. Like I said, please like and subscribe to continue to support the project. I was pretty happy I was at least able to get this little 20-second short, because as you guys know, we spent the past 5 years just putting the pre-production. We got the Bible done, and now we want to start producing content. We are at that point. We don't want to keep making more concepts, we want to start producing, and that's where we're at right now. So yes, so this is a step towards that big goal. And again, towards the end of the year, now that I have a better idea what this flow is, I want to start making bigger and bigger and bigger shorts using what I've learned from this experience. And again, the first time is always going to be rough. It's like anything that you do. But now I have a better idea what the platform can do, how do I submit, what the verbiage do I do, how many times I have to run it, what kind of subscriptions I need. So I have a much better idea because I just did a small project, and now I'm going to build upon that project for the next project. So the next time it's going to go a lot faster. But anyway, guys, so with that, I appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.